Have you ever felt like your weaknesses are holding you back from achieving your true potential? Do you sometimes wonder if there's a way to transform your vulnerabilities into your greatest strengths? Today, I'm going to reveal 12 powerful Stoic strategies that will teach you exactly how to do this. These strategies are based on ancient wisdom that has stood the test of time, principles that can fundamentally change how you view yourself and navigate the world around you. Throughout this video, you'll discover practical techniques that you can start applying immediately to your daily life. We're not talking about hiding your flaws or pretending they don't exist. We're talking about something far more powerful, the art of transforming your Achilles heel into an unshakable source of strength. The Stoics understood something profound about human nature. They knew that our greatest weaknesses, when properly understood and channeled, could become our most formidable assets. Imagine what your life could look like if you stopped running from your vulnerabilities and instead learned to harness them. Think about the confidence you would gain, the obstacles you could overcome, and the person you could become. These aren't just empty promises. These are time-tested principles that have helped countless individuals throughout history rise above their limitations and achieve extraordinary things. Before we begin, I ask that you leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate notifications so you don't miss any new videos. And if you're interested, at the end of the video, access our exclusive content that's in the pinned comment. Without further delay, let's begin. Before we dive deep into these 12 transformative strategies, it's crucial to understand what we really mean when we talk about turning weaknesses into strengths. We're not engaging in positive thinking exercises or simple self-help mantras. We're talking about a fundamental shift in perspective, a philosophical approach that the ancient Stoics mastered and that remains remarkably relevant in our modern world. Your weaknesses are not your enemies. They're not shameful secrets that need to be buried deep within you. In fact, your vulnerabilities represent untapped potential, opportunities for growth that most people never explore because they're too busy running from what makes them uncomfortable. The Stoics understood this paradox intimately. They recognized that the very things we fear most about ourselves, the qualities we try desperately to hide, often contain the seeds of our greatest transformation. Think about it this way. Every weakness you have tells a story. It reveals something about your journey, your experiences, and the challenges you've faced. When you learn to read that story correctly, when you understand what your vulnerabilities are trying to teach you, that's when real transformation begins. That's when you stop being a victim of your limitations and become the architect of your own strength. This isn't about becoming someone you're not. It's about becoming more fully who you are. It's about accepting every part of yourself, including the parts that hurt, the parts that feel inadequate, the parts that make you want to hide from the world. Because once you can face those parts with courage and honesty, you unlock a power that nothing external can give you. You discover the unshakable strength that comes from complete self-acceptance and purposeful transformation. So as we explore these 12 strategies, keep this in mind. We're not just learning techniques. We're embarking on a journey of profound self-discovery, one that will challenge you, inspire you, and ultimately transform how you see yourself and your place in the world. Strategy number 1, embrace your vulnerability with radical honesty. Let's start with perhaps the most challenging yet most liberating strategy of all, radical honesty about your vulnerabilities. This isn't about oversharing or seeking sympathy. It's about looking at yourself in the mirror and acknowledging without judgment or excuse exactly where you struggle. Most people spend enormous amounts of energy trying to hide their weaknesses from others and even from themselves. They construct elaborate defenses, they avoid situations that might expose their limitations, they compare themselves constantly to others and feel either superior or inferior, depending on what they see. This exhausting cycle keeps them trapped in a prison of their own making. The Stoics had a different approach. They believed in facing reality exactly as it is, not as we wish it to be. This meant acknowledging their own shortcomings with the same clear-eyed honesty they would apply to observing the weather or the passage of time. There was no shame in this acknowledgement, no self-flagellation, just simple truth. When you practice radical honesty about your vulnerabilities, something remarkable happens. The fear that has been controlling you begins to lose its power. You see, fear thrives in darkness, in the shadowy corners where we hide the things we don't want to face. But when you shine the light of honest awareness on your weaknesses, when you say clearly and without drama, yes, this is where I struggle, this is where I fall short, the fear begins to dissolve. This doesn't mean your weaknesses disappear overnight. That's not the point. The point is that you're no longer expending all your energy trying to hide them. You're no longer living in constant fear of being exposed. Instead, you're free to direct that energy towards something far more productive, understanding these vulnerabilities and learning how to work with them rather than against them. Radical honesty is the foundation upon which all other transformation is built. Without it, you're trying to build a house on sand. With it, you create solid ground where real growth becomes possible. So, take a moment right now. Think about one vulnerability you've been trying to hide, even from yourself. Can you acknowledge it honestly, without judgment, just as a simple fact of your current reality? That acknowledgement is the first step toward transforming it into strength. Strategy number 2, understand the root cause of your weakness. Once you've acknowledged your vulnerability with radical honesty, the next crucial step is understanding where it comes from. Weaknesses don't appear out of nowhere. They have origins, histories, reasons for existing. The ancient Stoics were deeply interested in causation, in understanding the chain of events and circumstances that led to any particular outcome. Your weaknesses are shaped by your experiences, your environment, your beliefs about yourself and the world. Perhaps you struggle with confidence because of criticism you received as a child. Maybe you have difficulty trusting others because of betrayals you've experienced. Perhaps you avoid taking risks because failure once brought you shame or loss. Understanding these connections isn't about making excuses or dwelling in the past. It's about gaining clarity. When you understand why a weakness exists, you can begin to see it not as a fundamental flaw in your character, but as a learned response to circumstances. And here's the powerful truth that the Stoics recognized. Anything that has been learned can be unlearned. Anything that has been shaped by experience can be reshaped by new experiences. This understanding brings compassion into the equation. When you see that your weakness has a history, that it perhaps even served a protective purpose at some point in your life, you can approach it with kindness rather than harsh judgment. You're not broken. You're not defective. You're a human being who developed certain patterns in response to certain circumstances, and now you have the awareness and the choice to develop new patterns. Take time to explore the roots of your vulnerabilities. Journal about them, talk to people you trust. Seek to understand not just what your weaknesses are, but why they exist. This archaeological dig into your own psyche might be uncomfortable at times, but it's absolutely essential for transformation. You can't effectively work with something you don't understand. The Stoics believed that true wisdom comes from self-knowledge. Know thyself, inscribed at the temple of Apollo at Delphi, was a maxim they took seriously. This knowing wasn't superficial. It was deep, honest, sometimes painful exploration of who we are and how we came to be this way. That exploration is what we're engaging in with this strategy. It's challenging work, but the insights you gain will illuminate the path forward. Strategy number 3, reframe weakness as opportunity. Here's where the transformation really begins to take shape. Once you've honestly acknowledged your weakness and understood its origins, the next step is one of the most powerful. shifts you can make in your thinking. You must learn to reframe weakness as opportunity. The Stoics were masters of reframing. They understood that events themselves are neutral. It's our interpretation of events, our judgment about what they mean, that gives them power over us. This principle applies beautifully to the question of weakness. A weakness is simply a current limitation. It's an area where you have room to grow. When you reframe it this way, suddenly it becomes not a source of shame, but a source of potential. Think about the most successful people you know or have read about. Almost invariably, their greatest strengths developed in areas where they once struggled. The person who was terribly shy as a child and taught themselves to speak publicly becomes a powerful communicator. The individual who struggled with discipline and learned to master it becomes a model of consistency and achievement. The one who experienced betrayal and learned to trust again becomes someone who builds deep, authentic relationships. These transformations don't happen by accident. They happen because someone looked at their weakness and saw not just a problem, but a challenge they could rise to meet. They saw an opportunity to develop a quality they didn't yet possess. They understood that the very act of working to overcome a weakness would build strength, resilience, and character. This reframing requires practice. Your mind has probably spent years viewing your weaknesses as evidence of inadequacy. Changing that narrative won't happen overnight, but every time you catch yourself thinking, "I'm weak because," try to reframe it as "I have an opportunity to grow stronger by." This simple linguistic shift begins to rewire your brain, changing your relationship with your own limitations. The Stoics would remind us that obstacles are the way. The very things that seem to block our path are actually the path itself. Your weaknesses are not detours around the life you want to live. They are the terrain through which you must travel to reach your potential. And the journey of working with them, transforming them, is where you become the person capable of living that life. Strategy number 4, develop compensating strengths. While you're working on transforming a weakness, there's another powerful strategy the Stoics employed: developing compensating strengths. This isn't about ignoring your weakness or pretending it doesn't exist. It's about ensuring that you're not defined solely by your limitations. Every human being has a unique constellation of strengths and weaknesses. The Stoics understood that wisdom lies not in achieving perfection in every area, but in knowing yourself well enough to leverage your strengths while working on your weaknesses. This is about strategic self-development. If you struggle with patience, perhaps you excel at making quick decisions. If you're not naturally detail-oriented, maybe you're excellent at seeing the big picture. If you find social situations draining, perhaps you do your best work in quiet, focused solitude. The key is identifying what you do well and developing those qualities to a high level. This serves multiple purposes. First, it ensures that you're contributing value and building confidence even while working on areas of weakness. Second, it often provides resources that help you address the weakness itself. For example, if you develop strong analytical skills, you can apply that analytical thinking to understanding and working with emotional weaknesses. Third, it reminds you that you are more than your limitations. The ancient Stoics were practical people. They believed in working with reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. This means acknowledging that we all have finite time and energy. While we should absolutely work on our weaknesses, we shouldn't neglect the cultivation of our natural strengths. These strengths are gifts, and developing them fully is both a responsibility and a source of meaning and contribution. Make a practice of identifying and consciously developing your strengths. Set goals around them, seek out opportunities to use them, take pride in them. This isn't about arrogance, it's about balance. You're a complete person, with areas of struggle and areas of excellence. Honoring both is the path of wisdom. As you build your strengths, you'll often find that they provide scaffolding that supports your work on weaknesses. Your courage helps you face difficult truths. Your persistence helps you keep working even when transformation is slow. Your compassion helps you treat yourself kindly through the process. Your strengths and weaknesses don't exist in isolation. They're part of an interconnected system. Developing the whole system is what creates unshakable power. Strategy number 5. Practice deliberately in the area of weakness. Now we come to what might seem obvious but is often avoided. Deliberate practice in the area where you struggle. The Stoics believed deeply in the power of practice, of training, of building new habits through consistent action. They understood that philosophy was not merely intellectual exercise, but a way of life that required daily practice. If you want to transform a weakness into strength, you must practice, but not just any practice. It needs to be deliberate, focused, and designed to stretch your current capabilities. This is where many people falter. They acknowledge a weakness. They understand it, they talk about working on it, but they don't actually put in the consistent, focused effort required for real change. Deliberate practice in your area of weakness will be uncomfortable. That's not a bug, it's a feature. Growth happens at the edge of your comfort zone, in that space where you're challenged but not completely overwhelmed. The Stoics would prepare themselves for this discomfort. They knew it was coming, and they welcomed it as a sign that they were doing the necessary work. Let's be specific about what deliberate practice looks like. If your weakness is public speaking, it means regularly putting yourself in situations where you have to speak in front of others. Starting small, perhaps, but consistently challenging yourself. If your weakness is patience, it means intentionally practicing pausing before reacting, over and over again, in increasingly difficult situations. If your weakness is physical courage, it might mean progressively exposing yourself to situations that feel risky, but are actually safe. The key elements of deliberate practice are consistency, focus, and feedback. Consistency means making this practice regular, not just something you do when you feel motivated. Focus means giving your full attention to the practice, not just going through the motions. Feedback means honestly assessing how you're doing and adjusting your approach based on what you learn. There's a beautiful Stoic principle at work here. The obstacle becomes the way. By repeatedly facing your weakness, by walking directly toward what makes you uncomfortable, you're not just addressing that specific limitation. You're building courage, resilience, and self-trust. You're proving to yourself that you can face difficult things. This meta-lesson, this proof of your own capability, becomes a strength that permeates every area of your life. Don't expect this practice to be linear or easy. Some days you'll feel like you're making progress. Other days you'll feel like you're back at square one. This is normal. This is the path. The Stoics would remind you to focus on what's in your control, your effort, your attitude, your commitment to the practice. The results will take care of themselves if you remain faithful to the work. Strategy number 6, surround yourself with the right people. The ancient Stoics, despite their emphasis on self-reliance and inner strength, were not solitary hermits. They understood profoundly that human beings are social creatures, and that the company we keep shapes who we become. This is especially relevant when working to transform weakness into strength. Examine the people in your life with honest eyes. Who supports your growth? Who challenges you in productive ways? Who accepts your vulnerabilities without exploiting them? Who models the qualities you're trying to develop? These are the people you need around you. Their presence in your life will accelerate your transformation. Conversely, who dismisses your efforts at growth? Who reinforces your weaknesses rather than supporting your development? Who takes advantage of your vulnerabilities? Who models behaviors and attitudes that pull you backward? The harsh truth is that maintaining relationships with such people will make your transformation exponentially more difficult. This doesn't mean you should ruthlessly cut everyone from your life who isn't perfectly supportive. That's neither realistic nor kind. but it does mean being strategic about where you invest your time and emotional energy. The people you spend the most time with will influence you, whether you intend them to or not. Make sure that influence is aligned with the person you're trying to become. Seek out mentors, whether in person or through their writings, who have traveled the path you're on. If you're working on transforming a particular weakness, find people who have successfully done so. Learn from their experience. Let their example inspire you. When you feel like giving up, the Stoics often wrote about, and to each other, sharing their struggles and insights. They understood the power of community in the philosophical life. Also, consider how you can be this kind of supportive presence for others. One of the beautiful paradoxes of transformation is that helping others with their journey often clarifies and strengthens your own. When you articulate insights you've gained, when you encourage someone else who's struggling, when you model vulnerability and growth, you reinforce these qualities in yourself. Be intentional about your social environment. This is one of the most powerful levers you have for personal transformation. You can do hard things alone, but you can do them more effectively, more sustainably, and with more joy when you're surrounded by the right people. Choose wisely. The Stoics would tell you that this choice is entirely within your control and absolutely worth your careful attention. Strategy number 7. Embrace discomfort as a teacher. The Stoics had a practice they called voluntary discomfort. They would intentionally expose themselves to challenging conditions, eating simple food, wearing plain clothing, enduring cold or heat. Not because they were masochistic, but because they understood something profound. Comfort is seductive. It's also limiting. When you're working to transform a weakness into strength, discomfort is not just inevitable, it's essential. It's the signal that you're at your growing edge, the place where transformation actually happens. Yet most of us have been conditioned to avoid discomfort at all costs. We reach for our phones when we're bored. We eat when we're uncomfortable with our emotions. We distract ourselves constantly from anything that feels challenging. This constant avoidance of discomfort keeps us weak. It reinforces the patterns we're trying to change. If you want to develop patience, you must sit with the discomfort of wanting things to happen faster. If you want to develop courage, you must feel the fear and act anyway. If you want to develop discipline, you must experience the discomfort of doing what you should do rather than what you want to do in the moment. The Stoic approach is to consciously reframe your relationship with discomfort. Instead of seeing it as a problem to be solved or avoided, see it as information, as a teacher, as a necessary element of growth. When you feel uncomfortable as you practice in your area of weakness, that's not a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you're doing exactly what you need to be doing. This doesn't mean seeking out suffering for its own sake. That's not wisdom, it's foolishness. But it does mean not running from the difficult feelings that arise in the process of transformation. It means developing what we might call discomfort tolerance, the ability to sit with challenging feelings without immediately needing to make them go away. Practice noticing discomfort without judgment. Oh, I'm feeling anxious right now. That's interesting. I'm feeling frustrated with my slow progress. That makes sense given what I'm trying to do. This simple act of noticing and naming without immediately trying to fix or flee begins to change your relationship with discomfort. It becomes something you can work with rather than something that controls you. The Stoics believed that we should train ourselves in favorable conditions for the difficulties we'll inevitably face. By deliberately practicing with discomfort, you're building a capacity that will serve you not just in transforming this specific weakness, but in every challenging situation you encounter for the rest of your life. You're becoming someone who doesn't fold when things get hard. That's true power. Strategy number 8, celebrate small victories. In the midst of challenging work, it's easy to focus only on how far you still have to go, how much you still struggle, how imperfect your progress is. This kind of thinking, while sometimes motivating, can also be demoralizing and counterproductive. The Stoics understood the importance of acknowledging progress, even small progress. Transformation of deep-seated weaknesses is not a quick process. If you're only looking for the final result, you'll spend a very long time feeling like you're failing. But if you can learn to recognize and celebrate small victories along the way, you provide yourself with motivation and positive reinforcement that makes the journey sustainable. What counts as a small victory? It's any moment where you responded differently than you used to. Any situation where you made a choice aligned with the strength you're building rather than the weakness you're transforming. Any instance where you noticed your pattern, even if you didn't change it this time. Any day where you showed up to practice, even when you didn't feel like it. These moments matter enormously. They are evidence that change is possible, that you are capable of growth. Your brain needs this evidence. It needs to see that the effort you're putting in is producing results. When you notice and celebrate small victories, you're reinforcing the neural pathways associated with the new behavior. You're making it more likely that you'll continue. This isn't about false positivity or ignoring genuine challenges. It's about balanced awareness. Yes, notice where you still struggle, but also notice where you've grown. Both are real. Both matter. The Stoics were pragmatists. They looked at reality clearly. That means seeing failures and successes, weaknesses and growing strengths. Make it a practice to regularly review your progress. Perhaps weekly or monthly, take time to reflect on how you've grown. Write down specific instances where you handled things differently than you would have before. Share these victories with supportive people in your life. Allow yourself to feel genuinely proud of your progress, even if it feels small compared to where you want to be eventually. This practice of celebration does something else important. It helps you develop self-compassion. You begin to see yourself as someone who is genuinely trying, who is making real effort, who deserves acknowledgement and encouragement. This compassionate self-view is essential for sustainable transformation. You can't hate yourself into becoming a better person, but you can support yourself, encourage yourself, and celebrate yourself into growth. Remember, every master was once a beginner. Every strength you see in others was once undeveloped. The path from weakness to strength is walked one small step at a time. Honor each step. Celebrate each victory. This is the fuel that will carry you to your destination. Strategy number 9. Learn from every setback. Despite your best efforts, despite your practice and your commitment, you will have setbacks. You will fall back into old patterns. You will have days or weeks where it feels like you haven't made any progress at all. This is not a sign of failure. This is a normal, inevitable part of any transformation process. The question is not whether you'll experience setbacks. The question is how you'll respond to them. The Stoics had extraordinary wisdom about this. They understood that setbacks and difficulties are some of our greatest teachers if we approach them with the right mindset. Marcus Aurelius wrote about how obstacles could become fuel for the fire, how challenges could be incorporated and used to achieve our goals. When you experience a setback in your efforts to transform a weakness, your first instinct might be harsh self-judgment. I knew I couldn't do it. I haven't really changed at all. I'm just fundamentally flawed. These thoughts are understandable, but they're neither true nor helpful. What if instead you approached the setback with curiosity? Ask yourself, what led to this setback? Was I tired, stressed, caught off guard? Did I encounter a situation that revealed I need a different strategy? Did I skip my practice or let supportive habits slip? What can I learn from this that will help me going forward? This investigative approach transforms the setback from a dead end into a stepping stone. Every setback contains information. It shows you where your transformation is still incomplete, where you need more practice, where you need different strategies or support. This information is valuable. It helps you refine your approach. It makes your future efforts more effective. But you can only extract this value if you're willing to look at the setback honestly and thoughtfully, rather than just beating yourself up about it. The Stoic approach to setbacks was to accept them as part of life, to not add unnecessary suffering by catastrophizing or personalizing them, and to extract any lesson they offered. Then simply to continue, not with the expectation of perfection, but with the commitment to keep practicing, keep growing, keep working toward the person they wanted to become. Remember that transformation is not linear. You won't improve a little bit each day in a neat upward line. Progress often looks more like a spiral or a wave. Periods of advancement, then what looks like regression, then advancement to a new level. The setbacks aren't taking you backward. They're part of the complex process of integrating new ways of being into your life. Be patient with yourself, be kind, and be persistent. The combination of self-compassion and determination is far more powerful than harsh self-criticism. Learn from every setback. Let it make you wiser and more skillful. And then get back to the work. That's what transforms weakness into strength. Strategy number 10. Use your transformed weakness to help others. Here's where something beautiful happens. As you successfully transform a weakness into a strength, or even as you're in the midst of that transformation, you have the opportunity to help others who struggle with similar challenges. This isn't just altruistic, it's one of the most powerful ways to cement your own transformation. The Stoics believed that we exist in community, that part of our purpose is to contribute to the common good. When you share your journey with others, when you offer the insights and strategies that have helped you, you're living this principle. But you're also doing something else. You're reinforcing your own learning, teaching others, mentoring them, or simply sharing your experience. Requires you to articulate what you've learned. This articulation clarifies your understanding. It helps you see patterns you might have missed. It strengthens the neural pathways associated with your new strengths. And perhaps most importantly, it reminds you how far you've come. When you're in the thick of transformation work, it's easy to focus only on what's still difficult, what you haven't yet mastered. But when you talk to someone who's at an earlier stage of the journey, you suddenly see your progress clearly. You realize that things that are still challenging for them have become easier for you. This recognition is incredibly valuable. There's another dimension to this strategy. When you've transformed a weakness, you have unique credibility with others who struggle in the same way. You understand their experience from the inside. You know what the obstacles are. You know what advice is actually helpful versus what sounds good but doesn't work. Your empathy is authentic because it's born of shared experience. This doesn't mean you need to become a professional coach or start a podcast unless that calls to you. It can be as simple as having an honest conversation with a friend who's struggling. It can be sharing your story in a support group. It can be mentoring someone in your workplace or community. Look for opportunities to offer what you've learned. The Stoics would remind us that we're all working together toward becoming better versions of ourselves. When you help someone else with their transformation, you're strengthening the community. You're creating ripples that extend far beyond your individual life. And paradoxically, by giving away what you've learned, you make it more fully your own. This strategy also keeps you humble. Helping others reminds you that transformation is ongoing, that there's always more to learn, that setbacks are universal. It prevents the ego inflation that can sometimes come with success. And it keeps you connected to the reality that we're all flawed humans doing our best. Strategy number 11, maintain daily Stoic practices. Transformation of weakness into strength isn't just about addressing that specific weakness. It's about building an overall foundation of resilience, self-awareness, and strength that supports you in every area of life. This is where daily Stoic practices come in. The ancient Stoics had various daily practices that helped them maintain their philosophical perspective and build their character. Morning meditation on the day ahead, evening review of how they handled challenges, regular reading and reflection on philosophical texts, journaling to process experiences and insights. These weren't just intellectual exercises, they were training for the mind and soul. Incorporating daily Stoic practices into your life creates a foundation that supports your specific transformation work. A morning practice might involve setting an intention related to the weakness you're working on. How do I want to show up today in relation to this challenge? What kind of person do I want to be? An evening practice might involve reviewing the day. Where did I succeed in applying my new strength? Where did I fall into old patterns? What can I learn? Journaling is particularly powerful. Writing about your experiences, your struggles, your insights forces you to reflect more deeply than you might otherwise. It creates a record of your journey that you can look back on to see progress. It helps you process difficult emotions that arise in transformation work. It clarifies your thinking and helps you solve problems. Reading Stoic texts daily, even just a page or a quote, keeps the philosophical principles fresh in your mind. It reminds you that others have walked this path before you. It offers new insights and perspectives that can illuminate your current challenges. The wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, and other Stoics speaks across the centuries to the timeless. Aspects of human struggle and growth, these daily practices don't need to be time-consuming. Even 10 or 15 minutes in the morning and evening can make a profound difference. The key is consistency. Making this a non-negotiable part of your day, like brushing your teeth, creates a structure that supports you through challenges. The Stoics understood that philosophy was not an abstract academic pursuit, but a practical guide for living. Their daily practices were how they applied philosophy to life. When you maintain these practices, you're doing the same. You're creating a daily rhythm that reinforces the person you're becoming and the transformation you're undertaking. Think of daily Stoic practices as preventive medicine. They strengthen you before challenges arise. They give you tools that are immediately available when you need them. They build the psychological and spiritual fitness that makes transforming weakness into strength not just possible, but sustainable. Strategy. Number 12. Embrace the journey, not just the destination. We've covered 11 powerful strategies for transforming weakness into strength. This final strategy is about how you hold the entire process. It's easy to become so focused on the destination, the day when you'll have fully transformed this weakness into strength, that you miss the profound value of the journey itself. The Stoics were wise about this. They understood that the quality of our lives is determined far more by how we engage with the process of living than by what outcomes we achieve. Marcus Aurelius, who was Emperor of Rome and could have focused entirely on grand achievements, wrote extensively about the importance of how he met each day, each challenge, each moment. The truth is, there is no final destination. Even when you've significantly transformed a weakness, there will be new challenges, new areas to work on, new ways to grow. If you're waiting to arrive at some future state where everything is perfect and easy, you're going to be disappointed. But if you can find meaning, even joy, in the process of working on yourself, then every day becomes valuable, regardless of how close you are to your goal. This perspective fundamentally changes your relationship with the transformation work. Instead of seeing practice as something you have to endure until you reach your goal, you begin to see it as intrinsically valuable. The daily practice is the point. The effort is the point. The person you're becoming in the process is the point. There's something beautiful and poignant about being human and imperfect and still trying to grow. There's dignity in the struggle itself. The Stoics recognized this. They saw virtue, which for them meant excellence of character, not as a destination but as a practice, a way of engaging with life moment by moment. When you embrace the journey, setbacks sting less because you understand they're part of the process. Progress feels more meaningful because You're not just racing towards some distant finish line. The present moment, with all its challenges and opportunities, becomes where life is actually happening rather than something to get through on the way to somewhere else. This doesn't mean you shouldn't have goals. You should absolutely have a clear vision of the strength you're trying to build, the person you're trying to become. But hold that vision lightly. Use it as a direction rather than a destination. Focus your actual energy on how you're showing up today, in this moment, with this challenge. Ask yourself regularly, am I engaging with this process in a way that's aligned with my values? Am I treating myself with compassion while still maintaining appropriate challenge? Am I learning? Am I growing as a person beyond just this specific transformation? These questions keep you connected to the journey itself. The Stoics believed that the only true good is virtue, excellence of character, and that this is entirely within our control regardless of external circumstances. When you embrace the journey of transformation, you're living this principle. You're finding value not in achieving a perfect result, but in the quality of your effort, the integrity of your process, the courage of your continued engagement. This is perhaps the most profound transformation of all. Not just turning a specific weakness into a specific strength, but fundamentally changing how you relate to yourself, your limitations, and your possibilities. This is what creates truly unshakable power, not the absence of weakness, but the presence of committed, compassionate, courageous engagement with the ongoing work of becoming. We've reached the end of this journey through 12 powerful Stoic strategies for transforming weakness into unshakable strength. I hope these insights have resonated with you, challenged you, and inspired you to look at your own vulnerabilities with new eyes. Remember, the goal is not perfection. The goal is not to eliminate every weakness or to become some impossible ideal of human strength. The goal is to engage honestly and courageously with the reality of who you are, to honor both your strengths and your weaknesses, and to commit to the ongoing work of transformation. This is not easy work. If it were, everyone would do it. But it is worthwhile work. It is the work that gives life meaning and depth. It is the work that transforms you from someone who is controlled by their limitations into someone who consciously shapes themselves in alignment with their values and aspirations. The ancient Stoics gave us these tools not because they had achieved perfection, but because they too struggled, failed, got back up, and continued trying. They were human, as you are human, but they chose to engage with that humanity in a particular way, with honesty, with courage, with compassion, with persistence. You have that same choice available to you right now, today, in this moment. Whatever weakness you've been struggling with, whatever vulnerability you've been trying to hide, you can choose to engage with it differently. You can choose transformation over resignation. You can choose growth over hiding. You can choose to become someone whose strength is not despite their weaknesses, but in some profound way, because of them. If you've watched this far, it means you're ready for this work. I encourage you now to take one concrete action. Choose one of these 12 strategies and commit to practicing it for the next week. Not perfectly, just genuinely. See what happens. Notice what changes. Learn from the experience. That's how transformation begins. I want to express my deep gratitude for joining me on this journey. I'd love to hear about your experience. What resonated with you? What challenges do you face in transforming weakness into strength? What strategies are you going to try? Leave a comment sharing your thoughts. And now, as a keyword for this shared moment, how? About you, write in the comments, I transform my weaknesses into unstoppable power. Let's create a wave of commitment and strength, showing that together we're capable of profound transformation. Thank you for being part of this journey. Remember, you are not your weaknesses. You are not your limitations. You are the choices you make in how you respond to them. And that power, that ability to choose, is something no one can take from you. Until next time, stay strong, stay committed, and keep practicing the art of transformation. The Stoics are with you across the centuries, reminding you that this work is worthy, that you are worthy, and that the strength you seek is already within you, waiting to be discovered and developed.